Good evening. Welcome to the 1196th regular meeting and public hearing of the Livonia City Planning Commission. I wish to inform all interested persons in our audience that for petitions on tonight's agenda, which involve a question of zoning, the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to City Council, and the City Council, after holding their own public hearing, makes the final determination as to whether a petition is approved or denied. The Planning Commission holds the only public hearing on requests for preliminary plats and/or vacating petitions. The Commission's recommendation is forwarded to the City Council for the final determination as to whether the petition is accepted or rejected. If a petition requesting a waiver of use or site plan is denied tonight, the petitioner will have 10 days in which to appeal the decision in writing to City Council. Resolutions adopted by the City Planning Commission become effective 7 days after the date of adoption. The Planning Commission and professional staff have reviewed each of these petitions upon their filing. The staff has furnished the Commission with both approving and denying resolutions, which the Commission may or may not use depending on the outcome of proceedings tonight. If our Secretary is ready, please call the roll.
Mrs. DeNaro.
Here.
Mr. Bonjero.
Here.
Mr. Long.
Here.
Caremagno is here. Chairman Wilshaw
Is here. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And also with us tonight, we have Mark Tormina and Stephanie Reese from our Planning Department. And we don't have too many items on our agenda, but the normal format for folks in our audience is that we will call each item. We'll get background information from our planning staff on the item. We'll give the petitioner an opportunity to come forward and speak to us. And then if anyone else wishes to speak, which there's not too many people in the audience, so there probably won't be too much of that. And then after that, we will make our decision. So with that, if our secretary is ready, we'll start with item number 1.
Petition 2021-12-02-25 submitted by Portillo's, requesting a one-year extension of the waiver use granted on February 28, 2022, involving the construction and operation of a freestanding full-service restaurant with drive-up window facility at 13004 Middlebelt, located on the east side of Middlebelt Road, between the CSX Railroad right-of-way and Schoolcraft Road in the northwest quarter of Section 25. This is Council Resolution 59-22.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Tormina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you don't mind, there is a companion petition, which is item number 2, petition 2021-12-226, also by Portillo's. And my presentation will address both of these items.
That would be fine.
So this is a one-year extension of 2 waiver use approvals involving Portillo's restaurant. The first is to allow for the construction of a full-service restaurant with drive-up window facilities, and then the second is the operation of a tavern license in connection with that restaurant operation, and that would allow for the sale of beer and wine products for consumption on the premises. So the location is a new outlot that would be created within the parking lot of the Meyer store, which is located within a Millennial Park, which is a regional shopping complex on Middlebelt Road. The City Council granted the approval to Portillo's on February 28th of 2022, so exactly 1 year ago. The approved plans showed a restaurant that would have a gross floor area of about 7,900 square feet. It would have 184 interior seats and 44 outdoor patio seats. Drive-up window service was planned along the west side of the building. This is the side facing Middlebelt Road. The exterior would include combination of a split face block, face brick, metal panels, smooth face block, as well as sections of metal louvers. The tavern license was also approved, and City Council, in connection with that, waived the separation requirement from the other on-premise licensed businesses within 1,000 feet of the restaurant. There are several other restaurants that are within Millennium Park and across the street that operate Class C licenses. There's a provision in the ordinance that requires that they be at least 1,000 feet apart. In this case, they're within 1,000 feet, but council has the right to waive that, which they did as part of their approval last year. The reason for the extension is because Portillo's needs to complete its real estate transaction with the owners, as well as their engineering, which is needed to obtain both the city and county permits and approvals. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll read out the correspondence on this item.
Sure.
Our first is a letter from our engineering division dated February 15th, 2023. And it reads, privately owned storm sewer is available within the existing parcel. The petitioner does indicate that they will be installing stormwater detention in compliance with the Wayne County Stormwater Ordinance, but no calculations have been provided at this time. Full review of the utilities will be completed when drawings are submitted for permitting. That letter is signed by David Lear, Assistant City Engineer. Next, we have a letter from our Livonia Fire and Rescue Division dated February 21st of this year. They have no objections to the proposal with the following stipulations. No current objections or stipulations at this time. Referred to review regarding this petition from retired Fire Marshal Greg Thomas on December 14th of 2021. A further detailed plan review will take place when this division receives an official plan set. And that letter is signed by Brian Kukla, who is the Fire Marshal. A letter of no objection coming from the Division of Police dated February 15th and signed by Paul Walters, Sergeant of the Traffic Bureau. A letter from the Inspection Department dated February 21st that reads, a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals would be required for the excess number of signs. This department has no further objections to this petition. That letter is signed by Jerome Hanna, Director of Inspection. A letter of no objection coming from the Department of Finance dated February 15th. Similar letter of no objection from the Office of the Treasurer dated February 17th and signed by Linda Scheel. And then lastly, a letter from the the Assessment Office that reads, please note the yellow outlined area indicated on the zoning and aerial maps does not exist independently. The parcel for 13,000 Middlebelt is 25.63 acres and owned by Meyer. Portillo's would have to request a lot split or identify any agreements they have with Meyer. Please direct any questions to the Assessor's Office or livonia.gov for a lot split and combination process. And that letter is signed by Kathy Sidderlet, residential appraiser for the city. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. Any questions for our planning staff? Mr. Nara?
Mark, do they have a new timeline?
I'm going to defer that question to the representative from Portillo. She's here this evening, and I'm sure she'll be able to update us on that question, because it has been a while. I know that part of it was completing their transaction, as I indicated, with the owners. So.
All right. Any other questions for our planning staff? If not, we do have a representative from Portillo's in the audience. If you're able to come forward, we can speak to you. Good evening, ma'am.
Hello, Amanda Shireen. Do you need my address?
Please.
805 Via Altos, Mesquite, Texas.
Okay, thank you.
To answer your question, our current timeline, we're planning to hopefully break ground on April 20th, as long as we can get civil approval by then. They're working on pursuing Wayne County stormwater approvals, and that included record drawings for the regional stormwater management facilities downstream, which is part of what the holdup was to getting those as-built. And the finalization should be done by April 20th as well. That's the current timeline to break ground. And then I'm here to answer any other questions you have.
All right, Mr. Naro, is there any other follow-up questions?
No,
you
that
have?
was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions any other commissioners have for our petitioner?
She came all the way from
I feel like that's something.
Make it worth your while. If there's no questions, I don't think there's anyone else in our audience wishing to speak for or against this. I'll give an opportunity, though. I don't see anybody jumping forward. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, thank you.
And I will go to my commissioners and look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Long.
for a approving resolution at the request by Portillo's Hot Dogs LLC for a one-year extension of the waiver use granted on February 28th, 2022, CR number 59-22, involving the construction and operation of a freestanding full-service restaurant with a drive-up window facility at 13004 Middlebelt Road is hereby approved and subject to city council approval, and provided all conditions imposed by council resolution number 59-22 in connection with petition 2021-12-02-25 shall remain in effect.
Is there support?
Support.
There's a motion to approve the extension by Mr. Long, supported by Mr. Bonjero. Is there any discussion on the motion? There's no discussion. If the secretary is ready, please call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Bonjero?
Aye.
Mrs. DeNaro?
Aye.
Caremagno says aye. Chairman Wilshaw.
Votes aye, and the motion passes. We'll go to City Council with an approving recommendation. And with that, we also have one other item related to Portillo's. Mr. Secretary, did you want to read that item out?
Petition 2021-12-02-26 submitted by Portillo's, requesting a one-year extension of the waiver use granted on February 28, 2022, Council Resolution 68-22, involving the utilization of a tavern license, which is the sale of beer and wine for consumption on the premises, in connection with a full-service restaurant at 13004 Middlebelt Road, located on the east side of Middlebelt between the CSX Railroad right-of-way and Schoolcraft Road in the northwest quarter of Section 25.
Thank you, sir. And we already received a presentation on this item. Is there any questions that any of our commissioners have for our planning staff in regard to this petition? I don't see any there. Any questions for our representative of the petitioner? Many of our commissioners. I don't see any questions from any commissioners. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak for or against this item? Don't see anybody coming forward. A motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'd like to offer approving resolution that the request by Portillo's Hot Dogs LLC for a one-year extension of the waiver use granted on February 28, 2022, Council Resolution 68-22, involving the utilization of a tavern license in connection with a full-service restaurant at 13004 Middlebelt Road, is approved, subject to City Council approval, and provided all conditions imposed by Council Resolution number 68-22, number 69-22, in connection with Petition 2021-12-202-26 shall remain in effect.
Is there support?
Support.
All right, we have a motion made by Mr. Bonjero, supported by Ms. Donaro. Is there any questions on, or discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, if the secretary is ready, please call the roll.
Mr. Bonjero.
Aye.
Ms. DeNaro.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Caremagno says aye again. Wilshaw.
Votes aye, and that motion passes. We'll also go on to City Council with an approving recommendation, and we wish you luck with your project. Thank you for coming tonight. And with that, we move on to item number 3 on our agenda.
Petition 2023-02-08-01 submitted by Kozak Construction on behalf of the HopCat Restaurant Company, requesting approval of all plans required by sections 3.11 and 13.13 of the Livonia Vision 21 zoning ordinance as amended in connection with a proposal to remodel the exterior of the restaurant for the former Claddagh Irish Pub at 17800 Haggerty Road, located on the east side of Haggerty Road between 6 Mile and 7 Mile Roads in the southwest quarter of Section 7.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. You do realize that you've done the most talking so far tonight.
That's all right. I'll drink water and make up for it.
Mr. Tormina.
Thank you. Again, this is a request to remodel the exterior of the former Claddagh Irish Pub, which is on the east side of Haggerty between 6 and 7 Mile Roads. It's just south of the college's, Schoolcraft College, that is, its main campus. Claddagh was one of 3 restaurants that was established in the early 2000s as part of College Park, which is a mix of retail and office uses on property that is owned by Schoolcraft College. The other 2 freestanding restaurants include Bravo Italian Kitchen and Mitchell's Fish Market. The zoning of the property is C2 General Business. Claddagh received waiver use approval on April 21st of 2004. In 2019, the restaurant closed. The existing building is roughly 9,480 square feet. It sits roughly 300 feet south of the signalized intersection or south entrance drive to the campus. HopCat will be the new lessee of the building and is proposing changes consistent with the chain's business operations and its brand identity. The restaurant will remain or will maintain the same number of seats that Claddagh had. This is 315, and that's what the limit was established with their approval in 2004. This includes 243 interior seats and 72 exterior patio seats. Within the restaurant itself, several partition walls will be removed, and this is really to create a more open floor plan. The layout of the bar and the kitchen area essentially will remain the same. So on the exterior, HopCat is going to remove almost all of the existing facade treatments, and you can see them in these series of photographs. The chimney, the cultured stone tower elements, the cornices, and the windows. So I think most people are familiar with the appearance of Claddagh Pub as it is today. The new design, as you can see from these renderings, is much more contemporary. It includes steel as well as wood siding, stone veneer, and ephes. The new color scheme, as you can see, is pale yellow with brown and black accents. On the north side of the building, the ephes is shown being painted with HopCat's trademark cat's eye logo. In 2004, the Zoning Board of Appeals granted variances to allow for 4 signs on the building with a combined total area of 148 square feet. The limit under the current zoning ordinance is 1 sign totaling 81 square feet. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll read out the correspondence.
Yes, please.
I think most everything is, departments indicate no objections. That includes the Office of the Treasurer in a letter dated February 17th and signed by Linda Shield. Letter of no objection from the Department of Finance dated February 15th and signed by Connie Compula. The Division of Police, Paul Walter, Sergeant of the Traffic Bureau, indicates no objections in a letter dated February 14th. The same with the Livonia Fire and Rescue in a letter dated February 21st and signed by Brian Kukla, Fire Marshal, and similar letter from our Engineering Division dated February 14th, indicating no objections. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. Any questions for our planning staff?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Caremagno?
Mark, there was some question about that roof line on the front where you can see the roof wraparound. Did we get that straightened out? Did you get an answer on that?
No, what we received are new plans, and I don't know if the new plans addressed and I think what you're referring to is the backside of the parapet, and whether or not that would be exposed and whether it would be visible. I'll let the petitioner address that. The only change we received was to that entry tower element. If you recall, there was it extended a little bit higher above the roof line, and as the petitioner who was here last week indicated, they were gonna reduce that height and make it equivalent to the other ends of the building. I don't believe they've addressed anything or made any changes relative to the backside of those parapets, but I'll let the petitioner explain that a little bit further.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Caremagno. Any other questions for our planning staff? If not, we do have a representative from the petitioner here. Feel free to come forward, sir, and introduce yourself with your name and address. Good evening.
Hello,
Name and address, please.
I'm Joel, and I'm from Kozak Construction.
Oh, okay, Joel, and what do you have to present to us tonight?
I'm sorry, what?
What do you have to present to us tonight?
Today, just, you have part of the drawings already that was up there, but I did bring along for your look of what the materials are for this board.
Okay.
I don't know if you can pass it along there, but I also just have the drawings there too that were there. But that will, also, I thought it'd be good, because sometimes we've been in meetings before, that you like to see how the 2 pieces of cedar come together that we have. And it's gonna be the smooth side.
So there's a tongue and groove style?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a, yeah. It'll break apart.
Is that being painted or just left natural, or
I'm sorry, what?
does this get painted, the cedar, or does it get just left natural, or?
No, it'll be a stained cedar. And I think the board tells you, and I couldn't
Okay.
tell you right off the top what type of cedar. I think it's a darker stain.
Gotcha, thanks.
All right. And there was a question that was presented earlier in regards to how you're going to be finishing the backside of those parapets. Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Typically, we're usually, when the backside of that parapet is gonna have a rubber membrane that's gonna come up and around the side, and then we'll put the cap, the metal cap on top of it. And so then it locks everything in.
Okay. Is there any other questions from any of our commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Chairman,
A little bit more about that rubber membrane. So I see the way it'll wrap around and come up the wall. What'll be the north wall. What color is that membrane gonna be? Is it gonna be a white? Is it gonna be
It's
a?
typically it's typically a white product. And I don't know if the owner, as of yet, has determined if it's something else, but that's usually in a restaurant situation, that white holds up so much better than any other type of membrane up there.
So I understand it, but in this picture that's on the screen now, so that's really not what that's gonna look like then. You're gonna have a streak of white there that's not gonna quite look like what it looks like on the screen, huh?
You'll see where the hand is at. You will see that is showing it black right there, but that will typically be a piece of cedar on the side that will wrap around and seal it off. But to your point, if you're able to see through there, that behind that parapet, you would see that white membrane. If you're standing at the ground level, like I believe you're proposing, that you're gonna look and saying, you know, from that angle right there, you would then see, I would think you would still see that,
Okay, and Mark,
depending, if that's what you're getting at.
yeah, I think that's what Mark brought up last week, was what can be done to shield that, and it was a pretty specific question last week to what's gonna make that look right on this building. You know, you're spending a lot of money and making this look better than what it is today, but that was kind of a sore thumb, as well as that top castle piece. But Mark, are you good with that?
Yeah, I did not go back out to take a look at, how visible the backside of that parapet is. This has been an issue we've run into. There's, you can see it on other commercial projects where oftentimes where that parapet is just partially wrapped around, it extends up higher than the building, and it's not finished with the same material that's used on the exterior. It's not an exterior finish that you would see on the outside of the building, but the membrane, and sometimes it just appears to be, out of character with the rest of the construction. I don't know how visible this is going to be from the road, or probably from certain vantage points. That's something that we can discuss with the petitioner. Maybe there can be some field adjustments to minimize its visibility, if that's going to be the case. They are modifying the structure, so it's hard to tell. When you look at what's out there today, you really don't see it. It's not that prominent, but I suspect it's on the backside of some of these features, like this extension up here and where that wraps around, but it's hard to tell. And I apologize because I did not have a chance to get out there and take a look at it.
No, but if it stands out bad, you can make a field adjustment or ask for a field adjustment. If it stands out, looks tacky, I get that. I've got another question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I noticed the rear roll-up door where the dumpster is inside the building, down at the base of that, all that is very, very rusty. Looks like it's
Being replaced.
it's all being replaced?
Yeah, all those doors that are rusted out at there, they actually even was taking one of them out today that I saw, but that was an interior door, but they're all being replaced.
Yeah, it didn't look like it could be refinished.
There's nothing much on that exterior.
It's pretty rough shape.
It's really worth saving.
And then I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question, but, where you're gonna put your yellow eyes, that side of that building has all been cut down. The overgrowth, whose responsibility will it be to maintain that along that ditch line there, or creek line? Who will have the responsibility to maintain that creek and the growth, so that can stay, those eyes can look good all the time there without shrubbery growing up over them.
I would love to save my wife, but she would be mad at me, so I better not.
I hope she's not
So
watching.
I won't go that. Actually, I do not know. I mean, they would, HopCat in itself would be responsible to take care and keep that visible. From my experience with HopCats, they've taken care of all their restaurants that way because that's kind of one of their main kind of logos. They want to make it look good.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'm sure they want it to look good.
Yeah.
It looked rather unsightly last time I looked, but I'm sure
Yeah.
they'll maintain. Okay, thank you.
yep.
Thank you, Mr. Caremagno. Any other questions for our petitioner? Any questions over here? No one over here? There is no one left in our audience to speak for or against this item. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us, Joel, before we make our decision?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, if there's no other questions then from anybody for this item, then a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Long.
I'd like to offer an approving resolution that the request by Kozak Construction on behalf of the HopCat Restaurant Company to remodel the exterior of the restaurant, former Claddag Irish Pub, at 17800 Haggerty Road is hereby approved, subject to city council approval and the following conditions. Number one, that the architectural building elevations identified as sheet number AE2-01, dated February 27, 2023, as revised and prepared by Ghaffari, is approved and shall be adhered to. Number two, all rooftop mechanical equipment shall be concealed from public view on all sides by screening compatible with other building exterior materials. Number three, the maximum customer seating count for this restaurant shall be 315. Number four, the wall signs shall comply with the sign regulations in effect at the time the permits are applied for, or the maximum permitted wall sign area allowed under appeal case number 2004-11-155. Number five, the painted logo on the north side of the building shall be subject to the review and approval of the city council. Number six, unless approved by the proper local authority, any type of exterior advertising such as promotional flags, streamers, or sponsored vehicles designed to attract the attention of passing motorists shall be prohibited. Number seven, that the plans referenced in this approving resolution shall be submitted to the inspection department at the time of application for the certificate of occupancy. And number eight, under section 13.13 of the Livonia Vision 21 zoning ordinance, this approval is valid for 1 year only. From the date of approval by city council, unless a building permit is obtained, this approval shall be null and void at the expiration of said period.
Is there support?
Support.
We have a motion made by Mr. Long, supported by Mr. Bonjero to approve. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, please call the roll.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Bonjero.
Aye.
Mrs. DeNaro.
Aye.
Caremagno votes aye. Chairman Wilshaw.
Votes aye, motion passes. We'll go to city council with an approving recommendation. Wish you luck on your project, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can come,
Can we grab that?
Yeah, you can come get your board. Thank you for bringing that.
Yeah.
I think we're done with it.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night. And Mr. Secretary, there's one last item on our agenda.
Approval of the minutes of the 1,195th public hearing and regular meeting held by the Planning Commission on February 14th, 2023.
All members were present for that meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Mr. Long, supported by
Support.
Mr. Bonjero. If there's no objection, I think we can safely show 5 to approve that. I don't see any objections from anybody, so we'll show that is approved. And that takes us to the end of our agenda. Is there any other business to come before the commission tonight? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Make
So
a
moved.
motion.
We have Mr. DeNaro, and we'll have support for Mr. Bonjero. You got that, Mr. Secretary?
Yes.
All right. And again, I believe if there's no objections, we can safely show 5 to adjourn the meeting tonight. I see no objections from anybody, so we will mark that as adjourned. And that has taken us to the end of our meeting. I would like to thank Livonia Television staff for bringing this meeting to the community. And with that, we will end this meeting tonight at 7:30 PM and wish a good night to Livonia.